Wow, what a difference. The Talkbuster Podcast. Hi, I'm Chris Chipman. You may remember me from such podcasts as the Chipman Brothers Tangent and Creating Geeks, a parenting podcast of great responsibility. I'm here to bring you back to the late 90s, early 2000s, a time of Amrays and clamshells, a time of late fees and VHS tapes being replaced by DVDs, a time of stale gumballs and overpriced candy. Yes, that's right. I am talking about the time of Blockbuster Video, the Walmart of the video rental industry, the mom and pop video store killer, the corporate big choice video store that everybody loved to hate. Kids today will never know the crazy Friday and Saturday nights with lines wrapped around the store to rent the next big movie. No more will regulars who are in the know arrive at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays to snatch up the new rentals that week before the weekend rush. Most of all, no longer will young movie geeks like myself have the memories I, and many others like me, made while working there. You see, under all of the corporate evil and bad practices, Blockbuster was a home, a comfort, a place where I made lifelong friends and even met my wife. It is because of these memories that I, and I'm sure many of you, have, that the Talkbuster podcast was created, a place for me and others to share our memories of what once was, of the before time, of the long, long ago. I'm looking forward to see where this goes, how it evolves. Join me, won't you?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Talkbuster podcast on a very special edition, as I'm calling it right now. It's currently March 8th, 2019, just to give people an idea of when I'm recording this, because dates don't really usually matter with all of this, but tonight they do. So up until now, this has been a podcast about nostalgia, as I've called it, of the before time, of the long, long ago, where me and my friends and my guests all used to work for a industry that, we've been kind of eulogizing on this, right? An industry that isn't really here anymore. And the days of future past are upon us, folks, because tonight's guest is someone who actually still works for a video store and none other than Blockbuster Video. My guest tonight is Sandi Harding, the general manager of the Blockbuster Video in Bend, Oregon. And I'm so excited to have her on, especially with how busy her schedule, I'm sure, is not only running the last Blockbuster on the planet now, but also taking lots of phone calls and interviews with actual real news agencies instead of little old me over here in Massachusetts. So, Sandi, introduce yourself, and thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. So it's Sandi Harding. I'm the general manager of the last Blockbuster on the planet, but I'm very excited to be on here for you.
That's awesome. I really appreciate it. I guess we're both excited then, and you can hear me okay, right?
I can,
Just
yes.
making sure you're coming through loud and clear. Just making sure.
Good.
Um, before I get into the store and how you got there, since I'm from the complete other coast of the United States, give me an idea of what Bend, Oregon is like. Have you always lived there? Kind of what's it like over there? Do you,
Well,
you know,
I've lived in Bend, well, far more than I've lived anywhere else at this point. I actually moved over here when I was a freshman in high school, so that was, back in 1990 or 1986. Gonna date myself here. Um, But Bend is beautiful. When I first moved here, there's about 36,000 people, and now we're up to, I know the census probably says right around 91,000, but it's probably closer to 100,000 when you've got everybody kind of that's right outside the city limits. But it's a huge area. It's a beautiful area. We have Mount Bachelor, the Deschutes River. We have um, about 30 minutes the other direction. You can be out in the middle of the desert, and it's just a gorgeous area.
that's awesome. So I'm from Massachusetts. I don't know if you've ever been here.
I
Um,
The furthest east I've been is Minneapolis.
cool. So until about God, 3 years ago, the farthest west I had been was Chicago, and now I've been to L.A. and San Francisco. So almost up your way.
So, I'm going to, hopefully you can't hear my cat too much. Believe it or not, she was sleeping up until about 5 minutes ago.
Oh, it's completely fine. So it's like with Captain Marvel, right? The cat is a supporting character. So I've got you there too, and what a tie-in that is, since Blockbuster is in Captain Marvel, huh? How about that?
Oh, and I think it started playing last night here,
Yeah, it
but I
did.
know the official date was today. I know,
Yes.
have you seen it yet?
No, I'm seeing it tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay. Because I know that I had seen Captain Marvel crashing into the Blockbuster store, but one of my employees already saw it and said that it's a much bigger section of the movie other than just her smashing into the store.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I was going to ask if you guys were made aware of that or had a hand in it.
You know what? We weren't aware of it until the trailer dropped, but then we had a ton because that was about the same time that we became the last one in America.
Right.
And so it was kind of funny because that dropped, and we had so many people calling and asking if that was our store. And I was like, oh my goodness, of course it wasn't our store. We wish Disney would have called us, but that didn't
Right?
happen.
That'd have been nuts.
It would have been nuts. And the funny thing is, we have the wire racks now. And when I first came to work for Ken and Debbie at Blockbuster, we still had those old wooden racks and
Oh
things that you
yeah,
see in the movie. And so, you know, the ones that you used to try to put the movie away and you hit your knuckle on and you ripped about 3 layers of skin off.
oh yeah,
And
the perf board IKEA shelves. Yeah.
oh, yeah, that were perfect for VHS, but they sucked for DVD, especially if you were doing inventory.
Oh,
Uh,
so terrible. And then they bring that wonderful thing in where you know if they arrange the store the wrong way, which a lot of the ones around here were renovated banks and things that they
mhm.
turned into blockbusters. They weren't new construction, so they'd have the 6 foot tall shelves turned um perpendicular to the CSR pit, so you'd look down and people could hide behind them and take whatever they wanted, basically.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And we did, and we actually, it's because we're locally owned, we had plants in our store. And so we had plants on the tops of all those dang wooden shelves. And yeah, the same thing. People would get behind them. You'd have gum stuck to the back of the planters. It would be just anyway. But back to a little side note about inventory. I don't know how you guys did it, but after a night of inventory, I would the next morning, oh my God, I felt like I'd done 100 squats.
Oh,
And you can't, oh yeah, and you can't move. I got to the point where I finally started bringing my son's skateboard in, and I would sit my tush on that skateboard and slide back and forth in front of
that's ingenious. I can't wait to tell my original store manager Scott is going to be on this show in a couple weeks, and I can't wait to tell him that all of them are going to be like, really, why didn't we ever think of that? Um, because I'm imagining you still go around holding the scanners on the long cords. Is that how you do it?
Oh yeah,
Oh
with
yeah, okay.
with the
So it hasn't
pouring.
changed.
Oh, no, it hasn't changed. And about the only thing, we don't do inventory nearly as often as we used to, simply because we don't have to. And
Right.
as you remember,
And
it sucked.
oh, it was terrible. The worst part was scanning candy, even though
Yeah.
the taste, because it's like, come on, it's candy. Like,
Well, exactly. And that's the one, actually, honestly, those are the ones, the retail stuff is the ones we still do quite often. It's the rentals. And did you guys have the artwork, or did you guys actually have the paper sleeves with the Blockbuster name and everything that you took home
we
for
had
your
the paper sleeves with the artwork wasn't the artwork was stayed on the shelf.
So
What
did you ever
like
switch over?
yep,
So you always had the paper sleeves, you never switched over to the artwork?
correct. The artwork was like on the VHSs because when I
Uh-huh.
started, we were primarily VHS. DVD had just started in 2000 when I started there. We had like
So,
one row.
yep, in 2000 is when I started at Blockbuster too, so that's funny. But yeah, we switched over to the artwork. And so now with those the labels, if you thought scanning inventory with those paper sleeves was bad, you should try the PRP labels
Oh
because
God.
those things rub off.
Oh
They,
yeah.
oh, you can't scan them through the plastic for the games. Oh, it's just terrible.
Oh my God. So yeah, this is awesome already. So everybody I've pretty much outside of the people from I've had people from Movie Gallery, people from Hollywood Video, get in touch with me and be on the show. So I've had the competition on too. Um, but most of the people I've had on know me,
Yeah.
so we kind of shared the same background. So you've told me a little bit about yourself again, but I wanted you to know, my history with Blockbuster goes way back to the year 2000. My brother, who is Movie Bob, he's an internet critic that's pretty well known throughout the country, more than me, and he's got me started in this. But I worked there with him. All of our group of friends, all of the groomsmen in my wedding were pretty much all people I worked at Blockbuster with. And I actually met my wife at the Blockbuster I worked at in Salem. So our story goes all the way back to there.
Oh,
So
that's
she was a friend of one of my managers, and I was 17, so I had to cut off work at 10, and we'd go and hang out. We eventually ended up dating.
that's funny.
Yeah, it's cool. So, that's so let's see. So I talked about Bend. You gave me a background on there. So how did you end up at Blockbuster?
So yeah, that's a funny thing too, because my husband actually worked at a corporate Blockbuster when we first got married in a different town. And then we moved back to Bend because we were only gone for maybe a year. We moved back to Bend, and the company that I'd worked for, Maurice's, I don't know if you know anything about Maurice's. It's a retail clothing company. But anyway, I worked for them for 10 years, and they were closing. The mall that we had our store in was being torn down, and now it's a strip mall. But anyway, another bygone era, right, of malls, indoor
Oh
malls.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, so I had originally met him in the mall, and then he worked at, like I said, a Blockbuster, and he worked at a couple of different mom and pop video stores while he was in college and when we were first married. And anyway, so Maurice's closed, and my best friend actually worked at Blockbuster, and I was going absolutely bonkers at home with my three little ones, and begged and pleaded for a part-time job. And she was so funny because she goes, we're actually opening up a brand new store, and we're looking for a manager. And I'm like, really? I really don't want to work. I just want a part-time job. I don't want to be a manager again. But anyway, I met with the general manager that was here at the time, and that I ended up running the store. And we opened the store December 13th, and the end of late fee started, I think, January 1st or right around that time. It was right after Christmas. And boy, was that, I had just started in August. And so, and that was in 2000. And that was quite an experience, going from not knowing anything about the movie business other than my husband having worked there and being a renter, to dealing with end of late fees. That that sucked. I'll just be quite honest. That was terrible.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm so
So you said end of late fees?
Yeah, do you remember when they did the no late fees program?
Oh right, and it just became restocking fees. Sorry. Yeah, I don't
Uh-huh.
mind me. I must have repressed those memories. Yeah, that was horrible,
Oh,
especially with the old VHS tapes that would ring in at like $110 and people would
oh
be
yeah.
getting balled off on their credit cards on them.
Oh yeah. And then if you didn't keep up on the FOS, or God forbid something happened and you missed one, and then people were mad because their charge accounts were being overcharged, and oh, it was a nightmare. And then they would swear up and down that they didn't know anything about the terms and conditions, and you're like, but it's posted everywhere. So anyway,
Oh,
a little off subject
hilarious.
there. But yeah, no, so that was my grand experience with Blockbuster, was the end of late fees. But anyway, so then about 6 months later, the general manager that was here left, and I transferred from that brand new store to the store that I'm at now. And we kind of split the general manager's job between me and my best friend, who was managing one of the other stores. And anyway, we did that for a few years. I did all the payroll and personnel, which was kind of more my alley anyway. And she did all the movie ordering and supplies. And then she ended up leaving, and I ended up taking over all of it. And so that was probably 2007, 2008 when I started. I was the general manager for the whole thing, and we still had 5 stores at the time. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of where I got to where I am now, and still here.
That's awesome. So you know, you talk about, having to order and set up movies, and I ended up a store manager near the end of my career there, and it was crazy and hectic and insane, and I was only like 19, and it
Mhm.
was it was just chaos running a whole store, but I loved it at the same time. But you said this was a franchise store, not a corporate store.
Correct.
And so, I'm sure the times changed, from the year 2000 till now, or even till 2010, when, the grand upheaval started and they all started
Mhm.
disappearing. Um, but what was it like, say at the beginning in the early 2000s working in a franchise? Was it super different? Because we didn't have a lot of experience with franchises around here. I think there was one in the area, and the rest were all corporate stores. So, give a little bit of background on what that was like, and if you know any differences between that and the corporate stores. I'm not sure if you knew or not, but
No, I did. In fact, because I'd hired a few people here and there that would come from a corporate store into our store. And plus, like I said, my husband worked for a corporate store. So I knew a
right.
little bit about it. And that hadn't been maybe 6 years before I started working here. But I think that probably the freedom that we had, where I know for you guys, I think taking late fees off and doing different things was a lot more stricter using the
Oh,
credits.
absolutely.
And for us, it wasn't. I mean, you just had to, you know, Ken and Debbie are wonderful people. And one of the reasons why I've stayed working for them as long as I have is one, because it's a family business. And you were talking about how your brother worked there and your groomsmen. All three of my sons have worked at Blockbuster. In fact, my youngest is still works there. He's the assistant manager. I didn't promote him. The manager that I had working under me did. I wouldn't have. No, I'm just teasing. Um, but anyway, so we're definitely a Blockbuster family as well. I've had a couple niece and nephew work for me, and we've had multiple families. Ken and Debbie and their children all, of course, worked at the Blockbuster at one point or another. And so, I mean, the whole kinship family business, that was kind of Ken's thing too. And he was all about taking care of the customers. And that's one of the things that I had been managing since I was 19 as well. And so when I came to work for Ken and Debbie, I didn't want to work for a company that didn't value customer service.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I found with working for Ken and Debbie and as a franchise, that we had the freedom to be all about our customer, where I felt like when I talked to people about corporate stores, that kind of got lost a little bit. Like you could only
Exactly.
do so much before your hands were tied.
Oh, and they would come in, and after a while, especially near the end, like the 2007, 2008 time frame when the writing was on the wall. I mean, I remember as a store manager getting Video Store Magazine and seeing that was right around the time where Netflix was still in the possibility of Viacom and Blockbuster buying them, right? That was like a
Right.
big deal at the time. And we saw the Video Store Magazine with the what became Redbox on the cover, and it said right on the front of Video Store Magazine, "Will this be the end?" And it's just like,
Yes.
oh crap, you know what I mean? And right around that time is when the sales came in, the
Yep.
DVD players, the T-shirts, the toys. It started turning into more like a GameStop, kind of
Yep.
how GameStop is now, or a Best Buy. And the thing I always said to my friends, and what it sounds like your store was and still is I looked at my experience at Blockbuster is within the bubble that we created between our friendships and our interpersonal working and how much fun it was to come to work and our regular customers that we loved and everything. We created kind of this like bubble of specialty store within
Yep.
the corporate world. And it sounds to me like the franchises were kind of able to be what we kind of created in our minds,
Yeah.
within our store. I mean, we used to have an employee favorite section. They came in and dismantled that. We had movie reviews that the employees would write. They came in and dismantled that. Um, we all made a movie together. And when corporate found out, they decided that since we were employees, they owned it. And
Yep.
that got a little weird. And it wasn't like a movie we were selling, right? We just did it for fun. So it was very weird.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the horrible thing about the corporate world is that
right.
they so often, working for big chains, they look at the grand scheme or the big picture, right? The grand scheme of the project, and they forget about the individuality. So, I mean, I know lots of companies that I have worked for or that I have friends that work for, and they'll talk about it. I'm like, things that might do well in Salem, Massachusetts, or in Chicago, Illinois, may not work very well in small Bend, Oregon. And so
Absolutely.
it's like you have to be able to have that individuality, even within Bend. And at the time when I started, we had about 50,000 people. So, I mean, Bend has grown tremendously in the last 20 years. But we had four Blockbuster stores. There was a couple mom and pop, and there was a Hollywood here with 50,000 people.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of competition, but Bend was a huge movie renting town. But even between my four stores I had in Bend, I had one store that was really big with foreign movies. I had one store that was really big with horror movies. And it was like with it as a franchise, I was able to kind of tweak that, and you're able to order in extra movies and that, for each thing versus just being in the corporate bubble where everybody gets the same amount and
And
everybody gets
and
the same thing.
that's kind of what made me touch on that question is we as store managers had no control
Yeah.
in the world over what our store got. We couldn't say, hey, my customers have been asking about, this movie that I know we're only going to get 20 of for like the last 6 months. We weren't able to adjust that. We weren't able to change that. And so it's very interesting to hear, and I'm actually very jealous. It it's great. And, I brought up at the beginning of this podcast when we were talking, but I'm so happy that this world that I've been talking about, like it was gone, still exists. Like I want to buy a plane ticket, just come there right now, just to like hang out for an afternoon, check it out.
So
You know?
if you do, bring your card
Oh,
because
absolutely. Well, actually, I was going to get to that. And you know what? I'll just jump to that right now. But I had another question. So you said in Bend itself, you said there were 4 or 5 Blockbusters and then a Hollywood.
yeah, we had 4 Blockbusters in Bend, a Hollywood, and I think there was 2 or 3 mom and pop locally owned.
So aside from you, what
Hmm.
was the last Blockbuster in your area to still be around? Like how long ago?
Well, remember everything in Central Oregon we had. So we closed our last one in Redmond, which is about a town about 20 minutes away, last March, so a year
Oh,
ago.
oh
Uh,
wow.
and then there was one still in Sandy, Oregon that closed the end of 2017. So I think he was done in December of 2017. So we had still had 3 here in Oregon in 2017. There was one in Texas, and then there was the 5 or 6, I think, in Alaska. I think there was 9 of us total
Yep.
still. And then they closed. Texas and Sandy both closed down at the same time at the end of the year. And I think maybe one of the Alaska stores, and then it was like the Alaska stores all just kind of folded up within a 6-month period. They were just all gone. And the Redmond store, unfortunately, was the only store out of the 5 that we had that we ever closed because it was poor performance. We loved the store. We had wonderful customers. In fact, there's a couple of them I still take movies back and forth to Redmond for from Bend, just because I can't not have them in my life. They're just wonderful people. But
God.
we closed that store, and Ken and Debbie actually owned the building that store was in, so that made it even tougher, and we probably held on to that store far longer than we should have, just simply because that town only has about 38,000 people. It really was too small with all the streaming and Redbox and everything else. It was just too much that store, but it started to kind of slowly bite into the store we have open right now, the last one. And so we were like, I can't afford to lose both stores. So it was kind of to the point where you close one or you close them both. So that's kind of how that happened, unfortunately. But I
Wow.
do 2 of the employees. The manager that worked for me out there was on maternity leave through most of that when we were getting ready to close the store, and she's back working for me here in Bend. And then I have one of the other gals that works for me in Bend. And then, of course, my son was the assistant, and he went on to manage my other son was managing that store when we closed it. Um, so I mean, we took care of our employees and made sure everybody found something and brought them to Bend if we could. So
Wow.
anyway,
So how many employees do you have?
so there is about 12 active employees, not counting myself, and then we have a couple of um, they're my special kids. They come in. One of the little gals has Down syndrome, and they come in. They're our little helpers. We have 2 of them. They come in a couple hours every day during the week and put away movies and stuff for us.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's again one of the things that's nice, being a locally owned store. We can do special things like that. Ken and Debbie are super supportive, and whatever we can do for the community, whatever we can do for people in general. I mean, I just can't tell you enough. We've gone out of our way and done things, and I don't want to make it sound like we're all that or toot our own horn or anything, but Ken and Debbie, as owners of the Blockbuster store, are just, I can't say it enough. They're just tremendous people. They're really good people, and they take good care of us, and they give me the ability to take really good care of the community and the people around me.
Wow. Well, it's almost, I wish I could just talk to them right now and thank them. So please do that for me.
Oh,
Just for this is a world that I'm glad you're still allowing uh a younger generation to experience this. I was watching a news article about this with people talking about the store, and they're like, it's like a history lesson, and it's
mhm.
like it's like a time capsule of the just a good time. There's something about being there and walking around and thinking about being there and walking around with somebody, and even just walking down the new release wall. And we used to when you were running tapes back when it was VHS and you could actually read them. It was a game we used to play where you'd have to make up a story using the titles, right? As
Yep.
you were going around and you yell it back to the manager up front, and just silly things like that that you just can't get that from clicking on a screen, even though as far as preserving the movies and keeping them forever. It's like cool. I'm glad that people do stuff like that. But are you aware as a quick aside of Scarecrow Video in Seattle?
You know what? I've heard the name, but I'm not really familiar with them.
Cool. Yes. Check them out. I was going to talk them up at the end, but they contacted me too because they want to be on, and they, I guess, were a mom and popish kind of video store that started in a record store in the
Uh-huh.
back. And as the video stores in the Seattle area started closing, they started buying up all the inventory, and now they've become like the nationally recognized archive for physical media.
Wow.
So they
That's
have
very
like 100,
cool.
140,000 strong of VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, and Blu-ray.
Wow, they still have VHS too.
They still have VHS. Actually, well, there goes my next question. Do you guys have any more in the store, VHS wise?
Well, I have currently probably a handful of tapes in my office just because people from around the country have been sending them to me. And I still have some laser discs in the office too that I tried to sell in a couple of the different tent sales and couldn't get rid of the darn things.
Oh, that's so.
So I have a few of those too. But
Contact the
yeah,
Scarecrow. Maybe they want them.
I probably will. Actually, I think that we once a month, we did this back in October, but the Bend Comedy Club came in and did a comedy show in the store, and then they contacted me and wanted to do some more this year, and so we're doing comedy show once a month and a movie trivia night, and I'm pretty confident that I know it was so much fun last Sunday when we did that, or 2 Sundays ago. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that the guy that runs it was the one that was telling me how he wanted the laser disc. Someone did. I'll have to remember who it was, but someone was like, "Can I have the laser discs in your office?" So I'm sure they're already spoken for, but if not, I'll definitely contact Scarecrow.
Nice. All right. So you were talking about the bring my card in, and so
Yes. Yeah.
my question to you is as a franchise store, I know around here there was a numbering scheme, right? Like our store was 25032,
Yep.
right? So what's yours?
92242.
Okay. So if I was if like tomorrow you were to go in and
Mm-hmm.
type in 22503220406, that was my employee number from the year 2000, and that'll bring up my account. And if you did that and took a picture of it, that would make my life.
So here's the thing. I can add you in. I can do a quick ad. It's not
Cool.
the national when Dish closed the last corporate store, they turned off the national database.
Oh
So
no.
I can't download or any of that kind of stuff
No,
anymore. But
that's
I
all
can
right.
still quick add. So that's why I keep telling everybody, like, bring your card. We can quick add you back in. So you will be a member with your old number in the store. So
Oh,
we still have the same computers. We have the IBM computers, and
that's what I was going to ask next. So
yeah,
could you do that for me? Could you add me back in, and then I
yeah.
will try to come there. Yeah, shoot me a picture of that. I'd love to share that on Twitter of like, hey, look it, I'm there again.
Yeah, no, that's fine. When we're all done, you'll have to text me your number again.
I'll
And
do it right now while we're talking. But anyway,
that's
yes, so of the old IBM computers, oh my God. What about is the computer backup all still the same? The old like big box cards?
oh yeah. And it's so funny because as the stores have closed, and actually when Dish closed the corporate stores, they were very gracious. They were fantastic. They contacted us and told us, hey, if there's anything you guys want, that'll help you keep going, let us know. So and they shipped it all to us. We just had to pay for shipping. We didn't have to buy any of the equipment. And so, man, we stocked up. I have all kinds of crap in the back room. And then as my stores have closed, I've been hoarding everything. And so I have extra servers in the back, extra PCs. I mean, I have everything you can imagine in the back room, extra hard drives. And so it always cracks me up because, I'm 48 years old. I grew up using these computers. So I can pull them apart and switch the hard drives and do all this stuff. And the kids that are working for me are just looking at me with their mouths open and going, one, what the heck is a floppy disk? Which always cracks me up. But then they're always looking at me like, I can't believe you can tear that apart and you know what to do. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I can throw this thing across the room and plug it back in and it's still going to work. I'm like, these things are not like your cell phone. They're not. I'm like, these are like heavy duty computers. But anyway, no, everything's still the same. We actually entertained the idea of switching to a new system right after the corporate stores closed when we still had the five. But the expense was too much. The movie business was up in the air. We knew our stores did really well, but we weren't sure what was going to happen. I mean, we still were noticing the downturn, and 1 month would be great, and the next month would be 40% down, like everybody else. And you really weren't sure what was going to happen, so we didn't want to put the $10,000 into buying new computer systems and retraining everybody. And
Ugh.
boy, I'm glad. In fact, Ken and I were just talking the other day, and he goes, "Well, do you think we should update the computer system?" I'm like, "Heck no." I'm like, half the people that come in here are so impressed with the fact that we've still got IBM computers that work. I'm like, don't even touch them. I'm like, we've got popcorn ceilings, we got IBM computers, we are set. Like, leave us
Right.
alone.
Right. And
So,
there's something about that, right? It wouldn't be the
yeah.
same without it, I don't think.
No, and I was teasing today because customers will come in and say, "Oh, you used to look like a Blockbuster. It still smells like a Blockbuster." And I'm always teasing, going, "God, if we smell like we did 20 years ago, or after we smell like a 20-year-old store, we are in big trouble." I'm like, let's hope it
Uh,
doesn't.
that's funny.
But we have Papa Murphy's next door, and I don't think you guys probably have Papa Murphy's out that direction. You probably
What
have
is
other.
that?
It's a take and bake pizza.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
so it's our next door neighbor. So it's a good combination.
Oh yeah. Hey, that is a great aside into another weird question. Uh you talked about Papa Murphy's, but are there like local restaurants or movie theaters or arcades that are like a hangout for you guys as employees there, or have been over the years? We had, Hollywood Hits Theater, which was a discount theater that was open till 2 in the morning. So we'd get out at midnight and go see movies at 1 in the morning, like as a store. Like everyone would show up. It was really cool. But
Yeah.
that's closed. Everything's closed.
Yep. So the kids do, I mean, we still have the old mill and the Regal cinemas and whatnot.
Yep.
And I know the kids have done bowling and actually Kid and Debbie back when we still had all the stores and we don't do it as much now, but we used to do like Christmas parties where we would go and they would screen movies. They would rent a place where we could screen a movie and we'd have all the staff from all the stores. We'd close down early or go early in the morning and have big parties with everybody, which was a lot of fun. But I know now, you know how everybody gets the pennies. I don't know if you guys had 99-cent movies or 2.99, but you always had the penny cups everywhere. So the
Yep.
kids
Oh
save
yeah.
the money, and that's the money they use. They call it their pizza money, and they will pool it all together. And a couple times a year, they all go together as a group and go watch movies or go bowling or whatever. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I mean, remember, I'm 25 years older than most of these
Oh,
kids,
oh
so
yeah.
they're
I,
all
I'm
they're old enough
bringing
to
I'm
be my
bringing it
own
up
kids.
more. I'm bringing it up more. That you've been there since 2000, right? So was there you know
But
anything?
remember, in 2000, when you were 19,
Yep.
my young son was born. So, so no,
I do forget that. It's funny. I was 17 and my store manager was 25,
yep.
and you know, I always think of him as being so much older than me.
Oh yeah, I was in my 30s when I started working at Blockbuster. So no, barely. I was like 32, but still. And but yeah, no, it's just an insane thing. If someone would have told me that I would still be working at Blockbuster, remember I wanted that part-time job,
Oh
but that
yeah.
I would be managing the last one. Oh my gosh, I would never have imagined that. So
So yeah. Obviously more questions about the store, but so the 0 to 60 on that, like as far as you and your store being high on the visibility of the public eye, um,
hmm
outside of Bend, you know what I mean? I started hearing, and I mean, I've got my finger on the pulse of this, but from far over on the other side of the country. I started doing this podcast maybe a year and a half ago. So I actually have to change my opening now because of this, because my opening has a bit where I just assumed at the time that the only blockbusters left were the ones in Alaska, and I also thought that the Last Lonely Blockbuster Twitter account was a parody. And
yeah.
is that someone from your store, or is that a parody?
So that is a parody. We
I thought so.
ours is Blockbuster Bend. That's our Twitter
Yeah,
account.
that that
The
that's 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 the one that ended up contacting me and
Yep.
made this all happen. So
Yeah, no, the last Blockbuster, in fact, that was so funny because it actually caught us off guard too, because we knew there was franchises all over the country and we just assumed it was one of the franchise stores. We never
me
really
too.
looked into it.
And,
Yeah,
and then
and
they
then go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and then when the Alaska stores announced they were closing, I was like, we need to make sure that we really are the last one in the United States and the last one in America. So then I started Googling it, and that's when I didn't even realize there were still some in Australia. And so then I found out about that, and I emailed Dish to find out for sure if that was true. And even, as much as I love that Dish has been so wonderful to work with and whatnot, it just still cracks me up because there really is no Blockbuster corporate. So when we call them, some of the times they don't know the answers either. So they have to
You,
to
you get
look
the
them up.
you
So
get
it's
the
kind of
person on the phone that's like, wait a minute, we own Blockbuster?
I know. No, I have somebody that I have contact with, and he's very aware of us. But no, and they're very kind, and they do everything they can or what we ask them. And I never want to say anything negative because I realize that they closed all the stores down, and that
Oh no,
was terrible.
absolutely. I mean, the fact that you guys can still exist and it being kind of all because of them, for
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly didn't need to, we had a contract with them and it was up, and they negotiated and let us sign a new contract. So, they certainly didn't need to do that. They didn't have to. They could have said, what they pay us is pennies, compared to the big corporate Dish Network. But they weren't. They saw that, why not? Why not let them do it a little bit longer? So I'm very grateful.
That's phenomenal. So like I was saying, so the was it when did the kind of media attention start pointing its way towards your store and you? Was that when the Alaska stores started closing down, or has it been going on longer than that?
That's when the media hit it, was when the Alaska stores closed down. I think a lot of people didn't realize we were still here.
I
And it was
definitely
kind of funny because the Alaska stores knew, because our owners are very good friends. And, but even the John Oliver show, it made me laugh because they were assuming that the Alaska stores were the only ones. And so, all of us were like tweeting them and whatnot, saying, "Hey, what about us? We're still here and we're closer to you than they are." And anyway, it was kind of funny. And so it was, I can't say that the John Oliver had to eat crow or whatever. Whoever was working for him was misinformed. Let me just say it that way, because they definitely missed the ball on the fact that Alaska wasn't the only ones left. And so
yeah,
I kind of chuckle a little bit that, haha, you sent it up there, and here we are. But at the same time, we have the John Oliver stuff, and so it ended up where it was supposed to be anyway.
that's awesome. So you were talking about Dish Network, and
Mhm.
you talked about you were closing stores, so you were scooping up signage and everything else. Do you still have one of those iconic Blockbuster gumball machines?
We do. Do you mean the Video Blaster ones?
The
The
yeah, the blue bottom with the like swirl, the little
Oh, no,
bottom.
I don't have that one. I actually sold that one when we closed the third store we closed. So that one I don't have anymore. It was a pain. I don't Did you ever try to move that thing?
Oh no,
Uh,
I have the one from the Salem store in my basement. My brother brought it for me when they closed.
oh my goodness. Well, don't try to do too much with it because it'll crack pretty easy.
Oh,
It's
I took it up. Engineer. So I took it apart and cleaned it up and fixed it up, and now it works again. But the scary thing about it was I bought it, or he bought it for me when they closed the Salem Blockbuster, which was shortly after 2010,
Uh-huh.
I'd say. And do you remember Carl and Ray?
Yeah. I actually have a couple posters still.
It still had Carl and Ray gumballs in it.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Uh
that's
huh.
awesome.
Uh huh.
Oh. I
Yeah, that was
thought
pretty gross.
Oh, we have the pinball machines. That's the ones that I
Oh
kept.
yeah,
We
yeah.
have a
Those are
Yeah.
awesome.
So I have a couple of those, and I have a foosball one that I kept too. And then of course lots of the other little candy machines. But I remember we closed one of the stores, and I had the video about the pinball machine in the back room. And I sold it when we closed our Redmond store, and I had to clean it out, and I hadn't touched that thing either. There was probably 8-year-old gumballs in there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these things are
Ah,
so awful. But you just put it in the back room, you don't think about it. It was just
of
covered up.
course,
So
of course. We still had a Pokemon Snap machine in our back room,
oh,
with
now that I would
an
have loved to have.
N64 in it.
That one I would have loved to have had. No, I actually was cleaning out a bunch of stuff, and it makes me kind of sad now because when we closed the Redmond store, we didn't know what we were going to be doing, and then we started cleaning stuff out, and then before the Alaska stores closed, so I threw some stuff away that now I wish I would have held on to, because we still had old inserts and things like that
Oh
you
yeah,
know, and I shredded, and different things that I was like, oh man. Um, because I have a few, but I don't have because we didn't use them anymore. It's like, why store stuff? I had them sitting back there for 10 years and I never touched them. So it's like I
Oh
need the
my,
space for something else. But I did find some old posters and different things that were pretty awesome. So
wow. So yeah, so Dish Network, are they who provides the Blockbuster branded signage and things, or are you just kind of scooping that up from other stores? And like, does new stuff come in? Because I know when I
oh
was
no,
there,
no, no,
we
no, no,
we
no. Dish
get like an order, as a store manager, of this is what you put up this week in this area.
no. So we haven't, no, that has been gone since, gosh, 2012.
I kind of
So
figured.
no, no, there's not that Dish Network doesn't do absolutely anything other than let us, use the name. We signed the
Yep.
license agreement so we could keep operating, but everything we have, I provide. So even the reader board signs I make, um,
Wow.
if we don't, we have one vendor still in Portland that I get about 85% of our stuff, Vogel Inc. We appreciate them. We love Tina. Go Tina. Um, but what we don't get from them, I buy. Candy, supplies, all of that stuff. I scramble and try to find. And some of the stuff is a little bit more challenging than others. Some things it's not too hard. I find them and get it. But the worst thing is the darn single cases. Can I tell
Yeah.
you that? You remember how easy it was to get those from corporate? Well,
Oh
now
yeah.
it's not so easy. There's like one vendor in the United States, and it cost me about 90 cents a piece for those things.
Oh,
So let me tell you, when the stores were closing, I hoarded those things to the point where we couldn't even walk in the back room because there were so many single cases. And everybody's like, are we really going to need these? And boy, I'm like, okay, we can either spend $1,000 and buy 10 boxes, or we can hoard all of these. So what's going to keep the store open longer? So, I mean, those are the kind of things that we have done over the years to make sure that we could afford to stay open.
of
So,
course, of course. No, and I love the idea of, as I call Blockbuster as a corporation in my opening, the corporate big choice mom and pop video store killer,
yeah.
because that's what they were doing. And to see them kind of end their run as a very profitable mom and pop operation is the coolest piece of poetic justice I could ever want to see, right? I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And, yeah. And I wish, because, at first I used to kind of tease about how, well, they never changed anything, because I remember sitting in the franchise meetings when early on in 2005, 2006, and listening to some of the talk, and I was amazed at, because I'd come from outside, so I didn't really know a lot about Blockbuster yet. I'd only been with the company like 6 months to a year, but I would be listening to them, and as a business person and having been running businesses for as long as I had, listening to how they weren't willing to change, how they weren't willing to kind of see that, hey, this little bubble that we're living in isn't going to last forever, just surprised me. And I can remember thinking, oh man, they really need to adapt and change. And, we're not going to sell TVs and that kind of stuff, or cell phones or Dish Network packages out of our stores and be successful. We need to stick with, what's important and the things the customers come in here and expect. Um, and then I sat down the other day and I was talking to somebody, and suddenly it dawned on me when I said, "Oh yeah, we've never raised our prices. We still have," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I haven't changed. So why am I still here?" So anyway, it kind of surprised me to have that little realization that here I was knocking them, and I'm doing the exact same thing. So anyway, but you're right. It's the difference between the corporate and the mom and pop.
Well, that's awesome. So you mentioned about prices. What does a rental cost at Blockbuster these days?
So, still the same for us. It's 3.99. And remember, we don't have tax in Oregon either.
Yep,
So
yep.
it's 3.99 for our rentals. And we actually, the only one thing we did change is with Redbox, and when they were so successful with their 99-cent rentals, is that we thought, okay, well, we are going to compete with them. So we did 3.99. We kept that, but we added an extra day. So we're 3.99, 3 nights, due back on the fourth day, which averages out to the same amount of money as a Redbox.
Yes, it
And
does.
so we kind of did that. And then we kept our older movies. All of our family movies are 99 cents for a week. And everything in the catalog is the same thing, unless it's a gold favorite, which is like Star Wars
Oh
and,
yeah, gold
Back to the.
favorites.
Yep. And so those are $1.99 for a week. So, and then we did go back to late fees in 2007, but we did a per diem. So if they're late, you got 49 cents for the week rentals and 99 cents for the 3-night ones for a day, and it
Oh
stops
yeah.
at 10 days and sells it. We still have the auto sales, and we don't have a restocking fee anymore, but at 10 days it sells to you. You have 30 days to bring it back, and you just pay the $10 in fees, and that's it.
So
So I mean,
is that $3.99 for new releases, video games, or video games a little more?
just new release DVDs. Video games, video games is a whole nother area. I actually made the decision in July that I wasn't going to continue to carry new video games, and that was a
Awesome.
tough one for me,
Yeah.
because though that is the one area that has dramatically changed and affected. And again, these are the tough decisions, like hoarding the single cases in the back room, that I have to make in order to keep the store running. But I couldn't afford to buy a $60 video game anymore, rent
Of
it twice,
course.
and sell it as a PRP for $6.99. It's like, it's not going to work. It's not profitable. And it was just eating out. I mean, it's just ridiculous. People, you rent the video game for 5 nights or 7 nights, and by then they've already, half the town's already ordered it online and beat it. So
Yep.
it was not profitable anymore for video games. So we still have Xbox One and PS4 games. We just stopped getting them after, I think it was, God, I'm terrible with games, but I think it was God of War. Whatever came out in July is it,
It
or
it was careening towards not profitable while I was still there.
yeah,
That was back when the company had enough money to, send you, 10 copies, 20
yeah.
copies. So that's crazy. So then where do you get your inventory of movies from? Because when I was there, Blockbuster was owned by Viacom, so they had Paramount and all the
Yeah.
contracts in a warehouse, I'm sure. So what do you, I mean, you outsource your signage and things to local places. Where do you get, like the new movie that came out? How do you figure that out?
So just to clarify the signage thing, remember, I make all of them. I don't
Yeah.
outsource them.
Oh, sorry. I meant
So
if you have some.
no,
Just want.
I do it. I do it myself.
Oh, no
Um,
way. Sorry,
so
sorry. I
no, that's
misunderstood.
okay.
I mean,
No,
I heard you made them, but oh wow, you make them, make them.
so
Huh?
so here's the twist on the whole thing. About 2 years ago, Ken and Debbie, when we first thought we might have to close the Redmond store, they own that building, and there was an empty space, an old Verizon space. So they decided they were going to open up a second business, and it's a UPS store. And
Ah,
so I was helping out with that. So now I'm managing that store for them as well. So I do both things. So so it's kind of great with all the sales that we're doing of the t-shirts and stuff, because I have the UPS thing. I know exactly where to go to ship them out to customers, and I kind of know about how much the shipping costs are going to be when I have to ship them too. So it's kind of nice. But anyway, so I do a lot of stuff in-house with the UPS store, and we make a lot of our own signage and stuff. But anyway, as far as inventory goes, like I said, we get a lot of stuff from Vobel out of Portland. But what we don't get, I literally go to Target, Walmart, Fred Meyer, anybody who will let me buy some, Best Buy, and get what we need. And it's challenging because even though they know I'm the last one, I realize they have lots of customers, and the last thing they want me to do is come in there and wipe out their shelves of movies. And so a lot of times I kind of spread the love, for lack of better terms. So I'll go around and get 5 here and 5 there, and kind of spread it around so that they will keep selling to me and allow me to get movies
right.
at their stores. But most of them know me at this point too. I walk in and they know that I work at Blockbuster, and they know that they'll tell me where they're at or whatever, and they know that I'm not gonna come in. I know there's some Redbox people and some different companies that come in and kind of sneak in and try to get it as much as they can, and they know that I'm not going to do that. So we have a good relationship.
So and again, if it's something that is, an off limits kind of thing, how does that work with movie studios, or do you not know? Because I know back in the let's say the Renaissance, or the high end of movie rental, the movie companies were the ones that were, super in control of, okay, well, it can be available for rental now, but then it can be available for sale later, and we're going to charge the video store $100 for the tape, so then they have to make up that price. But if you're, just buying it retail and then renting,
Well, they're probably not real happy with me doing that.
I
But I
think
don't
I
know.
figured. but how else do you do it? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, I'm not going out there and buying thousands of copies either,
Right.
and I'm not going out there and wiping out shelves or preventing other customers from getting them. But I think too that like again, we get the majority of our stuff from Vobel as far as like Warner product and Paramount and Fox and Sony and Universal. So we get and Lionsgate. We get the majority of our stuff from there, and there's only a few titles that we really go out and buy. Like this week I bought Free Solo. It was a documentary, and I actually ended up having to get it online. Yep, it's a great movie. But because I couldn't find it anywhere locally, so I ended up buying it online and getting it in a couple days late. But for the most part, it's TV shows I'm doing that with. Disney product, unfortunately, and I'm sure they're really not happy with me doing that. Um, but we try to stay as true to honor them as much as we can, and we try not to do anything we shouldn't do. But unfortunately, in order to stay the last Blockbuster, I got to do what I got to do. So
But yeah.
I
Now,
mean,
how do you come up with the numbers you think you want of titles? Do you kind of like
that's
read the area, or do you just kind of go off your brain and go, okay, I think that my customers are going to want 20 copies of this.
Yeah, and that's the 15 years of working there now
Yep.
and being in the same store. So, in fact, I've had, times when I was training for the UPS store, or I had other people in there and they're like, "Oh, let me help you because I know that you got this and that to do." It's like you have no idea. It's just in my head. It's like I can walk into the store and I know, "Oh, I need that," or "I need that." And it's not because, I have a piece of paper in my hand. It's just 15 years of experience knowing what my customers like. So yeah, absolutely. And in Disney titles, really it's about getting what I can and trying to satisfy the customer without making anybody mad at me, so they're not going to sell to me anymore, or get Disney calling me and saying, "Hey, knock it off."
Yeah.
um and I'm hoping all this publicity and talking about it, I'm not going to get that phone call saying, "Hey, knock it off." um but at the same
I
time,
doubt it.
I do too. I'm hoping that they realize that we're the last one, and we're certainly small enough that I don't think that it's going to affect their business. But um, and heck, they had Captain Marvel smashed into a Blockbuster store, so they must
Right.
appreciate
I have a feeling they're just fine with it. I was making a joke, and this was back before I really knew. God, this was a couple weeks ago now, so it was even before the big hit of you being the final one started coming up. With friends that wouldn't it be funny if, like, from a hipster standpoint, we started seeing like pop-up Blockbusters in the wake of Captain Marvel, like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, come down to this brewery in downtown something or other where we're gonna have a pop-up Blockbuster for the afternoon. Rent a movie for the night and bring it back to the brewery in the morning, kind of, or just something like that. And I was like, that'd be hilarious. I'd work there for a day, you know.
so did you hear about what they did in London then? Did you not hear
No.
about? So they did that. They had a pop-up Blockbuster store that they had full of, I don't know if it was London. It was somewhere over there. I think it was London. But anyway, they had a store that they put up that was just Deadpool 2. The entire Blockbuster store
You're
was full of just Deadpool 2. And anyway, it was a little bit of a funny, but yeah, they only did it for 3 or 4 days. So
That's awesome. Just full of
mhm.
Deadpool too.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys, we weren't quite as bad as Hollywood. Do you remember, we, as a manager, you probably did the same thing, but you go check out the competition. And I can remember walking into Hollywood Video, and they had hundreds and hundreds of the same title. And I'd be like, geez, though, no wonder you guys aren't making any money. Because I mean, they wanted to make sure none of their customers were without it. But oh my gosh, I can't even think of a title off the top of my head. But I just remember walking in and just thinking, how can you possibly have that many copies of things? Um,
Right. It was completely ridiculous because Blockbuster did that, but they did it in a like calculated way. And
yeah.
Hollywood Video was like, well, we have good deals with these two studios. So we get 300 of this movie and we get none of the thing that Blockbuster has. And it's
Yeah,
like, well, why would I go to Hollywood when I can walk in and get everything at this other place? It,
exactly.
Hollywood was weird. They started sticking I talked to someone. There was it called Game Zone, GameFly? I forget the name,
Yeah,
but they
yeah.
were crazy. They were sticking game like retail within the Blockbuster, and he said it was weird because they basically put a chain link fence up and then
Mhm.
cut another door into the wall. So you'd see the people renting at Blockbuster through the chain link, but you were like in this little cage in the back. They said it was really strange.
I
Like,
remember they did that here with their store, and yeah, it was really odd.
yeah. it just kind of blew my mind hearing about that. So, um, you've been there for a bit of time, so you were there during the time when I'm sure I don't know if it got like this in Oregon, but here, we got slammed on the weekends when the store was biggest. Was that the way there too in like the mid 2000s where you just couldn't
Oh yeah.
stop?
Oh yeah. And I can remember, oh goodness, because remember we're a ski town and we're a
Yes.
tourist town. And so I can remember at the store that I opened when I first worked for the company in 2000, um, I can remember being there and 3 o'clock would hit and that would be everybody coming off the mountain. And from 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock, we didn't leave our spots. We would have lines of customers. We did the active seller. I don't know if you guys had the active seller too, that walked around the store with the red apron on.
Yep.
And yeah, so we did that too. And we'd have the secret shoppers and all that kind of stuff. And everybody wanted to get 100% and all that kind of stuff. So we did a lot of the same programs you guys did. But yeah, oh, I can remember just being slammed. And then people would want us to look in the Dropbox and we'd be like, oh my God, I was just in there like 2 seconds ago, but it could have fallen in there. So then you're digging in
Yep.
there again. And so it's almost like you had to have this person just stuck in the Dropbox for the entire night to look for that last movie. And it's like you realize how important it was to them, but you were like rolling your eyes going, oh, please, people, it just came out on Tuesday and we only got 50 copies of it. We don't have it. I promise you. But anyway, you still would look in there anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about now? Is it kind of just consistently, people coming and going and picking around and coming for nostalgia, or what's your? Because I know I heard you say your customer base was like 4,000 strong, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
awesome.
And the thing is with that too, you remember at Blockbuster, I mean, we keep our accounts active for 2 years. And I
Yes.
think that it used to be 6 months, but we changed it, oh, probably 5 years ago. Um, so do you remember, sorry, this is a little side note before I
I
get
love
back to that.
side notes.
Do you remember corporate, the help desk
Oh
in,
yeah.
in computer support? So do you remember the dreaded first level that we all hated, that we would do
Mm-hmm.
everything we could to reset and not have to call them. But then when
Uh-huh.
we'd actually speak to somebody in Texas, we were like, hallelujah. And we actually got to talk to somebody who knew what the heck was going on.
Yes.
Well, we hired one of those.
Oh, nice.
So Dave Carrera, shout out to him. He's amazing. We actually, when corporate stores closed, we actually, several of the franchisees got together and hired him to keep him on to keep running our systems. And so he still works for us and he ensured me he was with me till the end, even though all the Alaska stores are closed. So it is awesome that if I have any problems with these old computers that I can't fix myself, I can call and pick his brain and he can help me fix it. And it was just a godsend. I'm like, I wish that we would have had that when all the stores were open.
Yes.
Like, I have
Like
better computer
like
support now than I ever
on
did.
on-site IT. Yeah, that would have been great.
Well, it's not on site. He's still in Texas, so
Well,
he's
either
not
way,
on site.
dir- dir-
But it sure is
direct
nice.
line.
Exactly. I can get a hold of Dave whenever I need to. But anyway, on that note about the 4,000, so you remember, I mean, our accounts stay active, so it's really hard to just determine how many people we have coming in week after week because every week's a little bit different.
Right.
It all depends on the weather. I mean, last week we got 3 feet of snow here in 24 hours. And so we were swamped. I mean, there was one day that we didn't have anybody, so we ended up closing a little bit early because the roads were just horrendous. Nobody could even get out of their houses. And then once they got caught up with the roads, we were slammed. And then, of course, this week with the news that we're the last one in the country, I mean, on a Thursday night, we were as busy as we are on Saturday. So, um,
That
it,
makes me
it
so
just depends. Yeah, it is. And it's funny because it doesn't just bring people in buying stuff. It reminds everybody that we're still there. And so customers are coming back going, you know what? I want you to stay here and I want to keep you here. And so they come back in and start renting again. And I
yes.
really thought that the whole new toy thing was going to wear off and that, oh, this will be great when it happened in July. We might get through Christmas and, but heck, if that happened, I mean, January, we were so busy. President's Day weekend, we were so busy with people coming here to ski and whatnot and coming in to see us and buying stuff and renting movies. And then now, of course, with this, we get another little re-energized, customers coming in the door. But yeah, it just, we're still busy. I mean, tonight when I left the store, the parking was completely full. We had probably a good 20, 30 people in the store and it was 4 o'clock. So, I mean, the peak hadn't even hit yet. The peak's like 5, 6 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
So it was really nice to see that. And, I remember we used to have lines through the back wall and that kind of stuff back in the heyday. And so it's nice to have a few of those days every once in a while.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's awesome. And I think, I'm gonna knock on wood here for you, but I think the ski town thing, the fact that it's a vacation destination, I think that's gonna do you well because it's somewhere that people, oh, I can go and visit this place and do this thing I was already gonna do.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not gonna go to this place to ski. I'm gonna go there instead. You know,
Yeah.
I mean that's Jesus, I would do that. I've been looking for an excuse. And I do. I've been on a podcast of a couple of guys called Geeks with Shields, and I believe they're in. God, I don't know if they're in. This is messed up now. I don't know if they're in Washington. I forget, but they're right. They're 5 hours away from you. That's all I know. And they're
Yes.
like, oh man,
So, yeah.
we're gonna take a 5 hour road trip out there, Chris, and we're gonna get you pictures of the place. We swear. Like, all right, that's gonna be awesome. Well, now I have you on the podcast, so I've done better.
Oh, so funny. And yeah, no, I think we'll be here for a while. I think if we can, Ken's always famous for saying a couple more years. And, as long as we can pay the bills and that kind of thing. But I have a feeling that this is going to keep us here for a little bit longer. And it's a really good feeling because, I love movies. You love movies. It's just such a happy place, especially in this crazy, crazy world we live in and where you turn on the TV and you just don't even want to look.
right,
Um,
right.
Nice to have something we all share and that we can all smile. I mean, you're in Massachusetts for crying out loud. I'm in Oregon, and
Yeah,
here we are. It's midnight at your house, and it's only 9:30 here. But and we're talking about something that makes us both feel really good, and
incredibly good.
and it's just so nice. And that's one of the things that I love about my job is everybody that walks into the door has a smile on their face. Everybody comes there because they want to be there. They don't have to be there. They want to be there and they want that happy, feeling that they had when they were kids. So it's a good thing.
It's I guess the same sort of nostalgia that I feel around here now because I can't go into a Blockbuster, going to a drive-in movie theater, right?
Yep.
I I had read I did one on a podcast I do with my wife. We did an episode on those, and I had read, and I need to look into it again, that Johnny Rockets, the burger chain, you know that place?
Uh-huh.
Um, they had I think it was a 2018 or a 2017 corporate ultimatum that they were going to open like 50 drive-in movie theaters branded as Johnny Rockets with them as the food court, there in the United States. And I don't know if it ever happened. And I
Huh.
need to dig back because that would be so cool, right?
Yeah, there's a few around out here.
Yeah, we
Um,
have a couple. We have a couple in
yeah,
Western Mass.
but they are
Um,
few and far between. And it's just it's unfortunate because, I of course always get the question, do you have Netflix? Of course I have Netflix. Who in the
of
country doesn't have
course.
Netflix? So it's I always kind of laugh. But I'm like, there's so many different choices for entertainment. And, there's days when I'm sick and I don't even want to go to the store to get a movie because I don't even want to leave my house. So Netflix is beautiful for that. But the problem is that the people who stay at home on their couch and their jammies watching Netflix every single day, they're missing that personal communication. You have little ones, and can I tell you, like fear for you when your little ones get big enough to see what the heck the social media life is going to be like for
Oh
them.
my God, it
But
already scares me.
uh, and I have conversations with my boys all the time, and my kids, my daughter's 28, I have 25, 23, and 18. And the younger ones, they communicate via text. And it's like you can't have a personal communication via text message. You
Right.
can't I mean, you can't. It's like talking on the phone. I mean, I remember when we were kids, we'd much rather go see our friend than talk on the cell phone
Well,
or talk on the landline. Yeah, yeah, you
it loses
lose.
inflection.
Yeah, exactly.
So many fights come in because you can't hear the emotion in what someone's trying to say. I was a resident advisor in college when
Mhm.
Facebook broke, when Facebook went, nationwide and not just MIT or wherever it started.
Right.
And we actually, as resident advisors, had to take courses in how to communicate to our residents about, the 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 kind of toxic things that could happen if it was used wrong.
Right.
And because that infected the college campus. Now it's a great way for people to stay in touch. By all means. But it became their life. And God, I can't even imagine if I had it on my phone when I was in college,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, and think about all the depression.
Yeah,
There's so many people with depression and anxiety and social
me.
anxiety. The reason they have social anxiety is because they've never been taught any social skills. It's
Yes.
like and I'm not I have anxiety issues too. I mean, I can't traveling is like the bane of my existence,
Uh-huh.
but and I get it. I get it's a real honest to God thing that is terrifying when it's happening to you. But it makes me sad to know that we've raised this generation who, yeah, they're technically savvy. They're smarter than I am. I mean, these kids can come out and do just about anything when
Oh
it comes
yeah.
to computers, but they're lacking that personal social communication and interaction. And it's not every one of them. I don't want to lump them all in the same one. I realize I have, young adult children, and
Right.
they would all look at me and go, "Mom, we're not all like that." And so I don't want to, get sucked into that thing of stereotyping them all.
Oh
But
yeah.
there is a vast majority of them that don't have those skills. And it makes me incredibly sad to see what our future is like with depression and sadness. And it's like, you need that personal touch. You need to communicate with somebody. And it makes me proud to know that we're still there and we can give people that a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, even the act of going to a movie theater, right?
Hmm.
Is so different for people now. They sit by themselves, they watch a movie, and they leave and go back to their regular lives. For me, I mean, I'm going to see Captain Marvel tomorrow. I have kids. We have to plan this, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to see Captain Marvel, and me and basically all the people I used to work at Blockbuster with, because we still all hang out, are going to see Captain Marvel as a group, and then we're going to hang out afterwards and talk about it. Like
Yeah.
that to me is the fun part. It's the camaraderie.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, I'm going to consume as much media as I possibly can, so I'm as savvy and well spoken about it as everybody else when I get onto some forum somewhere. It's how is this going to better my relationship with the people around me?
Exactly. And and I don't know, it's just sad. So like I said, I fear for you with your little ones. I have, three grandbabies and one on the way.
Oh,
And
congrats! That's
well, thank you. And they're beautiful, wonderful children. And my daughter and son-in-law are doing a fantastic job raising them and balancing. She's a teacher, so she's got one leg up on
oh
the rest of
my.
us. But it makes me fearful that they might miss out on some of the things that we grew up with that made us strong individuals.
Oh, absolutely. And we're hopefully, something new turns up because it goes in waves, right? Everything is cyclic.
Yes.
So hopefully something new to supplement that comes around. I hope. Um, we'll see. Um, man, that got very real. I like it.
Sorry.
No, I like it. You kidding me? This is great.
That
So
grandma.
so so I wanted to go back to something lighter and more focused because I'm getting close to the end of my questions. We've gone at just about over an hour, so I don't want to keep you forever. But
Oh my goodness.
first
Probably tired.
first of what was that?
I said you're probably tired too.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. This is great. I want to make sure too that what would you say it was Kenny and Kim?
Ken
What
and Debbie.
Ken and Debbie, sorry.
Ken.
Sure you
Yep.
give them a big hug for me and thank them for being as
I
awesome as they've
will.
been to you. And I'd love to meet them. So we'll see if I can ever make that happen. But
They're
to go
wonderful
back,
people.
what was that?
I said they're wonderful people.
To go back to Blockbuster, if you had to break down one or two of your favorite stories or like most memorable things that have happened in the store in the time you've been there, what would they be?
Oh, it of course they always involved the kids that worked for me.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see. I can tell you a couple funny stories that I won't name any names because
Yes, that's
I'll
the
get in
best
big
way of
trouble for
doing
that. They'll actually laugh. They all know who this is as soon as I talk about it. But we've got the funny stories because we had video camera systems in all of our stores,
it. Ah,
and some of the more fun things that we've seen is the girl that hit the trim on the tile and the carpet and went face first in the mop bucket. Um, or we had Matthew Fox in the store and everybody stopped and like followed him around. Um, let's see, we've had I know that on one of the video surveillance things we caught, same store by the way for all three of these things, um, was they locked up the store and they turned the lights off and they had already said last call kind of a thing and walked around, didn't see anybody. and the manager had taken all the tills out of the registers, and she's walking back to the back room to count them, and a customer stepped out from behind a rack and said, "Oh, are you guys closed?" And she threw those tills. I think when we closed that store, we were still finding change underneath racks. There was money everywhere. um, there's just been so many fun things. Everything I think that I think you were talking about that earlier. It's the relationships that we build when we work together in video stores, or actually, it doesn't really matter if it's a video store because I have relationships from Maurice's still that I had.
Right.
But it's the personal relationships we build at work. And when we can work in a place that we love and sell or rent things that we love, and we have that bond, it just creates some magic. And the magic that we had in all the 5 stores and that we still have in our store right now is just something you can't replace. And I think that, there's just too many stories of too many things, but I think that just the love I have for the kids that have worked for me, and hopefully they share with me too as well. I think that just says it all.
Well, especially the ones there now, right? They're getting to participate in something that nobody in the world gets to anymore, right? So they're
Yeah, I can honestly say this time around, I had a few more eye rolls. The July thing, we were so overwhelmed. None of us had any time to even breathe. And then
right.
I looked at them all the other day. I said, "Are you ready for round 2?" And oh my gosh, they were all like, "Oh no," because as
Oh no,
much
these
fun.
will
Oh
be
yeah,
stories forever.
oh yeah. I mean, they all are like, it's the phone calls more than anything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is this really Blockbuster? And I'm like, no, just answer my home phone. Welcome to Blockbuster. How can I help you? It's like, oh geez. Anyway.
That's funny. So uh in the home stretch here, I wanted to talk about a couple of other things. So how did the and again, I'm going to have these guys on the show, so
Mhm.
I can talk to them more. But how did the documentary come about? Was that started before you guys were? Was that like in a July time frame when it
So
became?
that actually was ways a while ago when there was still the 9 of us, 9 or 10 of us. So Zeke, or not Zeke, Taylor actually started it, and I actually sat down with him. I think it was 2017, and we
Oh,
sat down and talked about Blockbuster and whatnot. And then he had another project that he was working on, and so this one kind of got pushed to the back a little bit. And then all of a sudden, boom, we became the last one in America. And then he comes walking in. I can remember he walks in and goes, "Hi, do you remember me?" And I'm like, "Kinda." No, it was really funny. I was like, "Of course I remember who you are." So anyway, then we just started refilming things and kept going with it. And they're really great guys. I'm glad you're going to have them on because
oh yeah,
they're quite
they
the
answered
characters.
very quickly.
Yeah. No, they're quite the characters, and they love this kind of stuff, and they've really enjoyed making the movies. And Zeke actually worked in Hollywood. He helped do some writing and some different production stuff. He'll get into that. He'll know, obviously he knows his specifics.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Um,
wanted to make sure I knew your side of the story. That's all.
yeah, but that was it. We started way before we became the last one, and yeah, it's just pretty amazing. And I get phone calls all the time from people who want to do reality shows or people who want to do documentaries and those kind of things. And we're loyal to Zeke and Taylor because they have worked hard and they've been with us from the beginning before we were world famous. So,
Right. And that's another reason, I want to make sure I have them on here too, because I want to share in this with you guys in whatever extent I'm able to, because I happen to pull out of my brain a podcast about this exact topic. So just kind of want to keep the camaraderie going, bring us all together instead of you know um all not know that each other exist, right? That's
oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And, I even had a guy in today that had managed a store in Florida that came into the store today, and it was actually fun to talk to him. And I've had people from stores that used to work there come in, and it's really great. And I hope you're able to come to the store. Um, it's really just a fun environment when you get all together. The kinship that we all share is just great.
yeah. I'm glad to still hear that. So another thing I'm very fond of is craft beer, and I know that a brewery out your way had made a last blockbuster beer, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. First thing I wanted to ask is it still available?
It's not still for sale. I know that 10 Barrel had a couple of them because I think they were doing some kind of a giveaway
Right.
this week. but I have a little bit in my garage. But no, it was made. So we started that back in, I think it was April or May, when their I can't even talk now. But anyway, when they contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be involved with an event for charity. And at the time, they hadn't said they were going to make a beer. They just wanted to do some type of a block party and draw attention to a couple of local charities, animal charities. And I was like, absolutely, we would love to be a part of that. And so we started kind of working towards what we are going to do and how fun it would be to, we were the last one in the lower 48, how fun it would be to, do some kind of an event. And then all of a sudden, boom, the Alaska stores closed and we were the last one in America. And at that point, we had just discussed for the first time possibly making a craft beer for the event. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be huge. And so at that point, it just kept going and kind of snowballing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And it ended up being, we probably had a good 1,000 people at that event, if not more. And the parking lot just absolutely packed. I know that the beer was sold out. They started selling it, I think, at like 5:30, and by 7, for the most part, all the bottles were gone. And we had a truck there, or a trailer that they were actually serving glasses of beer. And they had filled that up a couple of times. They had to go back to the brewery and keep bringing beer to the place and filling it up. So it was a very successful event, but no, unfortunately, it's not still for sale. It was just for that charity event.
No, I get you. Just I collect bottles, so it's always cool to, if there was one still in existence somewhere, it'd be cool to put up on my shelf. That's all.
Oh, I could probably get you a bottle.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I think it's probably good. I can't ship you actual alcohol.
I know.
Especially
in Massachusetts.
But I could ship you an empty bottle. I think I could do that.
That would be really cool. I'm sure it was awesome, and it's more the keepsake than anything else.
Well, it was infused with red vines, believe it or not. And,
oh my God, are you kidding me?
It's a sinister black that was infused with red vines, and if you drank it nice and slow, you got that little bit of licorice taste. So
that's, I mean, either a red vine or a nerd's rope would be the most blockbuster thing you could infuse a beer with, right?
Exactly. Popcorn.
We used to have nerds rope eating contests, actually.
Oh, thank God we don't have those. You know what I did get back in, those Zots. Do you remember Zots?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I did get those back in, and I forgot how horrible they were. And I actually stuck one in my mouth, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of sweet. And then I hit that sour center, and I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? So anyway.
Well, okay, so now have you listened to an episode of my show yet?
I have not. After you contact me, I had every intention to do so. I just haven't had time.
No, it's okay. So it actually makes this even more fun. So I do a thing at the end where I create a virtual blockbuster. Okay, and I used to say, let me create a virtual blockbuster because I didn't think there were any still in existence. But you probably have a leg up on me and anyone else I've had on, because you actually still do this on a daily basis. But the idea is I'm going to be a customer, and I'm going to come up with a movie, and I'm going to come up with a movie, and I come up with one, and you as the employee have to recommend a movie to go along with it, and then you're going to do the same thing, and then I'm going to recommend one. So, and it can be anything. It can be anything you want. It's the fun part, and it's just to keep us brushed up on our chops, as it were, is kind of the idea. So if you don't mind, indulge me, because it's always been fun.
Okay.
So my pick, obviously, if you're going to do a blockbuster related podcast, I've already done the movie that I would normally pick with my friends. The most quintessential video store movie ever would be Clerks. So I'm not going to go with that. But I'm gonna go with one that I think is a like spiritual brother to that movie, and it's a film called High Fidelity with John Cusack, Jack Black. I take it you saying, yep, you've seen it.
Oh, I know exactly which one you were talking about.
So High Fidelity is awesome. For anyone listening to this that hasn't seen High Fidelity, they basically kind of took the what if John Cusack grew out of his 1980s movie phase of being kind of the sappy, sorry, love-struck guy chasing the girl around, and stuck him into kind of getting ready to go into middle age and kind of regretting his life and realizing that all of his relationship problems are 100% his fault, and then going through all of the breakups and trying to make good and learning more about himself. Add into that you have Jack Black working with him, having an absolute blast in a record store, and it's more like a Clerks. Anyone who's worked retail just loves the hell out of High Fidelity. And so that's my pick. So if I was to come up and rent High Fidelity from your golden rewards or golden favorite section, what would you recommend? I rent along with it, Sandi.
Well, the first thing I'd say is that do you like all the the guy comedy movies
Right.
first before I even start, and then I don't know. I would probably pick something along the same road with like Mallrats or
Oh
something
yeah.
else that went along with that same era of guy comedies. Or if you wanted something similar, maybe I'd go back to 17 again. It's a little bit more modern version of that.
There you
Um,
go.
but I don't know. I'd probably kick you off of Jack Black and tell you to go watch What About Bob?
Oh, absolutely. What About Bob's a perfect pick. So then what movie are you bringing up that I'm gonna have to
Oh,
give a
see,
rec?
now my genre is on the other side of the store. So
Yep.
I would probably walk up with something like Frailty
Oh,
and
and
do
going,
you
keep
remember that
going.
movie?
Oh no, you see, you're now going way up my alley. So
Oh,
Frailty, or are you just gonna go with Frailty?
I'll just go with Frailty.
All right. So if you're gonna rent Frailty, I'm gonna tell you to rent Session 9.
Oh, very nice.
Do you know Session 9?
Session nice nine. So I probably, to be honest with you, would have probably went with Stir of Echoes or something
Oh
else
yeah. Oh
along
yeah.
that line. Maybe not quite so horror movie, but Session Nine's good. Session Nine's very
I
good.
I I see Session 9. Just I love Frailty, and Frailty is such a cool movie. That was actually Bill Paxton.
Yep.
Rest in peace. That was his directorial debut, I believe.
I
Was
think you might be
Frailty,
right. I think you
and
might.
he also starred in it and wrote it, I believe. And the reason Session 9 always pops into head for a horror movie recommendation is, one, I don't know if people more outside of my area know as much about it. It was actually filmed up the road from my house, um, at, at Danvers State Mental Hospital when they were closing it, or it had been closed since like 1990, and
Wow.
they were renovating it to turn it into condos and apartments, and so the movie took place in that world where they were renovating it to turn it into apartments. And what's
Who
super cool,
would want to live there?
right? Well, my friend Steve, who was one of my managers at Blockbuster, lived there for like 6 years. And so we
Oh,
had always joked that we needed to watch the movie there, and we never did. But it would have been horrifying to watch it there.
oh yeah. I think that he probably would never slept again.
Yeah.
But
Oh
oh
yeah.
my goodness.
But no, Frailty is a great pick. Thank you for indulging me in that. I love that. It's it kind of sets the mood. So that kind of brings me to the end. I was so hyped up for this, and I'm kind of sad now. But I want to thank you so much, because
Oh, you're welcome.
I know how this has kind of skyrocketed your level of busyness, and I'm sure you're enjoying the ride. But I offer nothing but um, you know 500 to 1,000 people usually download this podcast, so people are going to hear you and get to know you and get to know me, and hopefully this gets me some more viewership too, and I can help ride this blockbuster love with you all the way to the end, to wherever the end
Well,
is.
you can absolutely, and they can reach out to us on, we have our Twitter and our Instagram and we have Facebook. It's all, Bend Blockbuster, and they can reach out to us. And yeah, we would love to hear more support. And I realize a lot of people can't come visit the store, but we love these stories. And I think I've thoroughly enjoyed this too. Nothing is better
Yes.
than sitting around talking about Blockbuster, from
Right.
inventory to the terrible computers. And uh, anyway, it's been fun.
So now I'll take from that, and again, thank you so much again. This has been
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
You actually, happy birthday to me, because my birthday was about 2 weeks ago. I turned 35, and I had posted that day. All I want for my birthday this year, Twitter, is for the Blockbuster Bend to be on my show, and
Oh,
you made that come true. Everyone was like, "Yeah,
well,
fat chance." They're all over the news, and I'm like, "Ha ha ha, yeah, we'll see."
well, happy birthday. I'm glad to have been on here for you. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. So I'll do my quick little outro. So again, this has been the Talkbuster podcast. This is Chris Chipman with Sandi Harding from Blockbuster Bend in Blockbuster, in Blockbuster, Oregon. Yeah, woo, wouldn't that be great? No, in in Bend, Oregon, who is the general manager of the last Blockbuster video on the planet Earth, ladies and gentlemen. And it's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much. As always, you can find me at my Patreon, patreon.com/thechippa. You know, thank you to all of my patrons so far that you guys keep this going. You know, it's hard to do this with a full-time job and a wife and kids that I have to support. And I love the fact that my wife gives me time to do this stuff because it's the only real creative outlet that I have right now, and I really enjoy it. The podcasts I do under Patreon are the Chipman Brothers Tangent with my brother Movie Bob Chipman, Creating Geeks, a parenting podcast of great responsibility with my wife, Shooting the SH asterisk T with Chippa, and I'm at the Chippa on Twitter. And Sandi, do you have anything you want to plug or talk about or point people towards?
Our
Blockbuster?
our Twitter and Instagram and our Facebook is all just Instagram at Bend Blockbuster, Twitter at Bend Blockbuster, Facebook at Bend Blockbuster. Reach out and say hi and let us know what your thoughts are about Blockbuster.
Awesome. And the people that I've had on this show and that many of my shows that I like to hawk on this as well, and hopefully with the viewership this gets, we'll get them noticed just by me talking about them, are thebigbrownchair.org, which is a film critic website run by my buddy Peter, who's a librarian, and most of the people that are on there are librarians. They just like reviewing movies. I've written a review or two for them. The Geeks with Shields podcast, who I have an episode coming up with them on, and I've been on 2 episodes of their show now. The Research and Destroy podcast, which is awesome. I was on an episode of that talking about Full Moon Video. The Pumpkin Copter Cast, which is a local video game podcast. I want to point you towards Scarecrow Video in Seattle, which we talked about earlier. I'll be having them on the show soon. And as we talked about earlier, follow along with the Kickstarter as it becomes a real movie of the last Blockbuster documentary about the Bend, Oregon Blockbuster store. So thank all of you for making this a Talkbuster night or day or whenever you're listening to this. And please be kind, rewind. Thank you so much, Sandi.
Oh, thank you.